Browns fan? Well, if you said yes to both of those things, then there's a good chance you're probably a little tired of our local Cleveland Brown sports media. Same old thing, day after day, night after night. It's time to hang the cleats up. It's time to pass the torch. If you're looking for something fun, something fresh, something where four people literally smack themselves in the face over and over with hot take after hot take, then my boys at Down with the Browns is where you want to be. It's just good for your soul. Available on Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Twitter. Getting down with the Browns.
Good evening, everybody, to your 1-0 Cleveland Browns. This is Down with the Browns with your host, Mac the Buffalo, and respectfully myself, Manny DTR enthusiast Maxwell. We're going to have a really fun show tonight because, like I said before, we are 1-0, and your Cleveland Browns, did have a game last week. They beat the New York Jets in the Hall of Fame game, 21-16. We are going to recap everything. Apologies if you guys hear thunder. We are having a tornado warning here in Philadelphia, so it's going to be a lot of thunder in and out. And so we'll get into it. Mac, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I do want to apologize to our viewers. We are starting a half an hour late. If anybody wants to point fingers, it's kind of a rule in show business that you don't blame the producer, but Christian said he is attending a family thing. Personally, I think he fell off the wagon again. He's been, probably doing Zens and energy drinks. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
So I'm hoping he gets his act together for next week. Lord knows if he does, but, hoping. Now, on my end, I do want to give a shout out to the men's Gaelic football team out here in Cleveland. We won our Midwest Championship yesterday.
Congratulations. I saw pictures of that. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, the boys are flying down to Denver or over to Denver this weekend for nationals, so best of luck with them. But in terms of what I got going on, I'm just absolutely ecstatic to talk about the Hall of Fame game. I mean, lots and lots to go over. So.
Lots to unpack. And wait a second. That's not the thunder that you hear. It does sound like thunder, but that is the sound of what the Buffalo heard.
Beer definitely tastes better when you drink it from a trophy cup. This is Mac, what the Buffalo heard. Welcome in, Cleveland fans. As while it may be a meaningless game, it is Victory Monday as the Browns defeated the Jets 21-16. The game was played mostly by backups as young players got a lot of solid reps in last Thursday's game. Most of the players on the roster bubble made the most of their opportunity, but some, like Anthony Schwartz, fumbled it away. Steelers fans reached a new low recently after Yinzers took to social media after Joe Thomas's 7-year-old son was pictured giving a thumbs down to Pittsburgh fans during the Hall of Fame parade. Seems pretty silly to even comment on the photo, as Jack isn't even old enough to have social media, let alone have the cognitive ability to read the messy, illiterate tweets from Steeler fans. Lastly, the first week of the preseason is in full swing as the Washington Commanders come to town to face off the Brown and Orange on Friday. A lot of news swirling about this opponent, considering the recent change in ownership and the possibility of a third name change in 4 years. When asked about the commies and former owner Dan Schneider, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam stated, "I don't understand why an owner would be in favor of capitalism but name their team the Communists." This is Mac, what the Buffalo heard.
Wait, it is quite literally going to be their third name change in 4 years.
It's...
You can't. I feel like the Commanders is going to be probably. I feel like that's the shortest lived NFL team name. I would imagine. I have to look that up. I would imagine that's the case. But I mean, just to have that go from the football team, the Redskins football team, and then Commanders.
I mean, they botched it. It was so bad.
The Red Wolves, I feel like, would be great.
Well, even was it the Red Tails? There was a certain
Red Tails.
yeah, there was like a certain nickname that had red in the beginning, but paid homage to World War I fighter pilots.
Yes, yes,
I mean, there's
yes.
so many
I like
good
that.
things that could have came out of this, and you got Commanders.
The Commanders. I don't. The jerseys aren't bad. I like the
I
black. I
mean,
like the
they didn't
black.
even
They
do
weren't bad.
anything with the logo. They just took the W and just
They
slapped it on
just
there.
it was just like they should have made a fresh new logo,
Yeah.
and then you know what I mean. But I don't know. It's there's a petition going around to make it go back to the Redskins as well. So there's that. Oh yes, Drew brought up a fantastic point that there is like 60,000 signatures right now for the Native American Guardian Association to bring the Redskins.
Yeah, that's the nutty part about it is that the Native American community is just has shown so much support for the name going back to the Redskins. So if they're for it, I'm all for it. And the Commanders, there's just a lot of ugly things about them. I mean, they got rid of the worst owner in pro sports, Dan Schneider.
Yes,
their field
yes.
is in absolute shambles.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fact that they haven't fixed their stadium is mind-boggling to me. Just because one of the greatest quarterbacks that they had in the history of their franchise, Robert Griffin III, before he got injured.
Yep.
What happened to his knee? Oh yeah, that's right. The medical staff told him that he was good to go, and then he played on a crap field.
Yep.
To which he
tried to recover a fumble snap, just messed up his leg.
Yeah.
Messed up his leg. So it's unfortunate. We will highlight that game actually on Friday, which is a nice Friday game. We don't have to wait too long. So listen, we did have a fantastic game. I mean, there's so much to unpack, like you said. Once again, in the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio, the Cleveland Browns defeated the New York Jets 21-16. I mean, listen, we aren't going to beat around the bush right now. I mean, there is a glaring elephant in the room. Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I mean, he was phenomenal. I want to kind of get your first input here back on what you saw with DTR. I know I was extremely high on him. I wanted the Cleveland Browns to draft him. I loved him at UCLA, West Coast kid. His family is from the area in Ohio. So, I was really, really excited. And it was a highly anticipated debut for Cleveland Browns fans. Mac, tell me exactly what you're feeling and what you saw from DTR overall, because we're going to go through the quarterback group, Kellen Mond, as well. So, but I just, we got to hit the elephant in the room.
I mean, DTR played like he was a starter. He wanted to be there flat out. Now, there were some issues in terms of him reading. Now, we're going to talk about that later. Yeah. But, in terms of reading his progressions, he was a little bit slower. But, when he saw daylight, he took off. When he saw the open receiver, he threw the ball.
Yes.
I mean, him, even though he just slowed his guy down by merely seconds, that block that he threw near the goal line to spring Demetric Felton free, I mean, that doesn't go unnoticed in the locker room.
At all.
And when the players see that, when coaches see that, they see a player that wants to be out on the field and will give it his all. Now, in the future, I'm not really too sure how I feel about my QB constantly throwing that kind of blocks, because it's you don't want to get yourself hurt. But look at that block right there. I mean, he's all about max effort, and when you get guys like that on the field, and guys like that in the locker room, it just kind of even sets a standard with the backups.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, I'm sure that once this game was over, Kellen Mond was kind of looking around. Josh Dobbs kind of looking around. Hey, is this guy going to push for the second string? Because, I mean, he's out here. I mean, how many – and it's this – I know this sounds crazy because it is the Hall of Fame game, but how many times do you see that in like many. Even in like a postseason game, even in like a primetime matchup in the middle of the season? Not many quarterbacks are going to willingly throw their body in like that to block. And that's just his demeanor. That's not even talking about his escapability. And I mean, that scramble where he stayed in bounds, I thought for sure he was going to get pushed out. but he stayed
Yeah.
in bounds and he was able to cut up field. I mean, he's an athlete and a gamer. So I'm very much excited to see what he does in the future. And honestly, I want Kevin Stefanski to give him a shot for QB2.
Yes.
For me, it's not just is he going to be able to beat out Josh Dobbs for QB2? Are they going to let him compete for QB2? Because I think personally, and this might sound like a hot take just off of one Hall of Fame game against second, third stringers, but I feel like DTR wins that camp battle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? And here's another thing. And I know a lot of people are talking about the fact that this is, against third stringers, fourth stringers. You're seeing a lot of opposing fans saying the same exact thing. Look, and there's some Browns fans actually in that group of people as well. DTR came into this game as a quarterback 3, quarterback 4, right? Playing people who are fourth string, third string, right? So, I mean, to see that sort of dominance, that sort of composure, the ability to drive 93 yards down the field for a touchdown. I don't care if it's, third or fourth string, because he is that, right? He came into the game as that. He just solidified himself and said, I'm a QB2. So, to go in and say, oh, well, you're playing third or fourth stringers, that some people are saying, I'm not saying you're saying that, but some people are saying that, is like you're kind of saying, well, we knew DTR was really, really good. Well, we didn't really know what we got in DTR unless you love DTR or just, love the pick. I mean, I know I love the pick. I know exactly what he's giving. I was listening to Locked On Browns. Shout out to a good friend of the show, Jeff Lloyd. He made a great point. He was talking about, when they were in the camp and in the NFL Combine and they were throwing with Anthony Richardson. I mean, DTR was better than Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson's going to be the starter in Indianapolis. So, I mean, just strictly throwing the ball per se. There's still a lot of things to iron out for DTR. And we're not saying he's going to be the starter for the Cleveland Browns. We're not saying that. There's some people who are asking, other Browns fans from other fans like, oh, man, it's unfortunate that you paid Deshaun Watson all that money and now you have to start him when you got DTR. Look, DTR is going to be a phenomenal QB2, and I joke around a bit with it, saying that this is the best quarterback room in the NFL. I mean, look, DTR is a fantastic QB2, and I, am not losing sleep over having to have him come in and do what a QB2 needs to do. God forbid Deshaun Watson goes out. But again, look, he was 8 for 11. I think he QBR of 124. I mean, he was just amazing. He's an amazing athlete. I think 6'2", 6'3". You showed his versatility, like you spoke of, Mac. The way he was able to stay in bounds. Look, go out of bounds. Just go out of bounds on those plays. Aaron Rodgers was talking about it. During the actual play that had happened. Just go out of bounds. You don't need to do anything crazy on this play that we're showing you right now. He is so athletic, and that's what you like as a QB2. Something that is a little bit of a copy of Deshaun Watson. You know what I mean? Just a Dollar General version, just to come in there for a game or two and just, be able to still run the offense, but with a mobile quarterback. Look at that. Look, just the balance there to stay in bounds. It's just insane. He's a really athletic quarterback, and I absolutely love having him on this team. But talking about another quarterback and staying in the quarterback room, Kellen Mond. I mean, I know all season in season 1 down with the Browns last season, you were talking about Kellen Mond and kind of the skepticism you had surrounding him. Can you elaborate on that? Because it definitely came into fruition in this Hall of Fame game. Yeah,
because he was a roster spot last year. He was a spot that the Browns were unwilling to give up. They said, this guy's on a roster. We're going to keep holding on to him all year because we are so just enamored with his potential. And Kevin liked what he did in Minnesota. And it's just, they had such a good view on Kellen Mond here. They picked him up for next to nothing. They just claimed him off waivers. So it's not like they spent a draft pick on him or anything, but they brought him into this organization. They said, he is so important. We're going to give him a roster spot all year. So when he comes out and he starts in the Hall of Fame game, you expect him to kind of show why.
Yes.
I don't even think that I mean, what? He had one scramble for 2 yards. And I mean, he can run too. He didn't show great decisiveness in the pocket. Frankly, I mean, his interception was ugly. I mean, I was telling you before the pre-show, it looked like the the coverage on Cedric Tillman was literally like almost like a levels concept, because you had Cedric Tillman right here, you had a guy in front of him and a guy behind him. So there was literally, I mean, you would have had to put in like a Patrick Mahomes type window throw that was going to be crazy and all over social media for the next 2 years.
Yep.
Type of ball. But Kellen Mond's just not that quarterback. And I mean, it was a simple pitch and catch interception. So I mean, I get it. You're not a starting guy. You don't, you know what I mean? Like we're not expecting you to come out, be lights out and just complete every single pass that you're going out there. But you got to give us something. And the stupid decision there. I really didn't think that his pocket presence was all that great. I mean, he ended up kind of like folding for a sack. So it's just, it could have been worse. Absolutely. But for me, after like all of the talk and all the hype on this guy to save a roster spot, I mean, how many injuries did we have last year? We had injuries at linebacker. We had issues at defensive end. Defensive tackle was being talked about all season. We had Jakeem Grant go down, so we were still looking for a special teams guy. And now, granted, if they didn't reserve that spot for Kellen Mond, was there an absolute, were they going to get their immediate fix in free agency? I don't know, but it's just, I just can't get over that. We just reserved him for a whole year, and like, this is what he gave us. And I know you're going to feel the same way, but I'm going to be upset if going forward, Kellen Mond is starting over DTR.
Wow.
I'm like, you know what I mean? Like it's when, I mean, the tape doesn't lie.
It doesn't at all.
So
it doesn't at all. You made a fantastic point, and just like Drew's saying, like this was your just like how everyone is saying DTR, this was like your third and fourth string defense, right? I mean, obviously you're supposed to do that. Why is everybody having it? Kellen Mond, this is the third and fourth string defense. I mean, you had him for a whole half. Yes, you threw a nice touchdown pass toward the end of the second quarter. Fantastic. Looked good. That was the one saving grace right there. You know what I mean? But when you're talking about that interception and you're talking about the opportunity to say, hey, I belong here, just like you said, Mac, I love the way you said it. I belong here, that roster spot. You don't have to feel horrible about giving that to me, because I'm going to show you what I can do to especially these guys that are, third and fourth stringers who might be working at Walmart, in a couple of weeks here. So it's like you really want to give put your best foot forward when given the opportunity to do so. And I think moving forward in these preseason games, I'm not saying it's the end of Kellen Mond experience. I mean, we're going to see him a couple more times, right? That's the good thing about having the Hall of Fame game, is because you technically have, the 4 preseason games rather than the 3, you would usually get. So you have another opportunity to just put some guys out there and see what you have on film. But Kellen Mond, I mean, you're going to have to do something pretty, extravagant moving forward, because DTR, he didn't play okay. He didn't play decent. He played fantastic. So he's coming after the QB3 role. It might even be coming after QB2. And it's sad to say, because a lot of people like Josh Dobbs, especially what he did in the preseason last year, but he hasn't played much, right? I mean, he signed to a 1-year contract, Dobbs is. So it's like, you might want to start getting comfortable with putting DTR in that quarterback too. I don't know. I really, I agree with MC. Mond is just a body at this point. He'll be gone. It depends. I think he's pretty much done, really. We could say safely 90% that Kellen Mond's pretty much gone. I know it's sad to say after one game, especially being the Hall of Fame game, but when you have that many quarterbacks in the quarterback room, a lot of people like Josh Dobbs. You paid Josh Dobbs the 1-year contract, and DTR is exploding onto the scene. You drafted him in the 5th round. That's a guy you like. So it's like, hey, Kellen Mond, your time here might be done. So Drew saying that they're not going to be getting rid of Dobbs this year. I don't think they're going to be getting rid of Dobbs either. I mean, again, once you sign to a contract, what do you think? They're
going to keep 3 QBs just because of the new league rule. you can have 3 QBs on a roster and it won't count against you. All teams are doing that now, especially after the Brock Purdy incident in the NFC Championship game. Everybody in the back of their mind now, they don't ever want to get to that point. But, everybody's going to have that third reserve QB, because the last thing that you want to do in a crucial game is run Wildcat the entire time.
Yes.
And just hope to God you can score. So, now with that being said, I do want to say an important rule change that we all must account for.
Yes.
Despite everything that we've said right here, cuts are not effective until the 4th preseason game. So you're not going to see now, granted, there could be like a pre-4th game cut, if somebody gets injured or they're just awful or they have, an incident like a certain defensive tackle that we had, a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But, so we're going to see most, if not all of those cuts after the 4th preseason game. So there's still a lot of work to be done for some of these players. And for some of these players that played horrible, like a certain wide receiver that we're about to get to in a second here. Yep. But, we're just not going to – they have another opportunity here in the next 4 weeks. So I do want to make a shift to the wide receiver room.
Yes.
Before we get too much into the negatives, I do want to highlight a wide receiver here, Austin Watkins Jr.
Yes.
The lone wide receiver that caught a touchdown, on Thursday, an excellent slant route. Dorian Thompson-Robinson had what almost felt like all day, and basically had all of the field to put that ball in there. So, that's a great thing to see, especially because, Jalen Darden being out with the injury, he was supposed to play. You have Dalen Baldwin, who also they have injury concerns with as well. So we're kind of looking for still another wide receiver. But one wide receiver that played good that not a lot of people are talking about. Well, let me rephrase that, because some are talking about it, including Hall of Famer Randy Moss, but Cedric Tillman.
Yes. He was very impressive. I was a little bit concerned about this pick in the draft, and about probably when we drafted him out of Tennessee, for about 2 minutes, until I actually saw what we were seeing, some of the highlights that you see on, during the NFL draft. And then I looked up, he is a large target. He is a really big body guy. And then so when he came in, and I was like, oh man, I had no idea that he went to high school with DTR. Until this was before the game. Obviously, in the Hall of Fame game, they kind of showed the pictures of whatever. Even the prom videos. They went to they were in the limo, sharing the limo with at prom. But I think it's so crazy to show the connection between Cedric Tillman and DTR. Now, Cedric Tillman only had the 2 catches, 35 yards on 3 targets. Yeah, I know it wasn't a stat stuffer, but he just looked bigger than everybody else. He looked very comfortable catching the football in traffic. And when you're getting those kind of, compliments, Drew just touched on it. And Drew said, Randy Moss said Tillman is the best receiver to come out in the last 15 years. It's a shame Matty G isn't here to say Matty G stuff about that. That's very true. Matty G would have a lot to say about that. But again, when you're getting compliments like that from one of the all-time great wide receivers, come on. It's Randy Moss. Whether it's, I know people are downplaying it, and people are saying, oh, well, it's cap, it's not true, whatever, blah, 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 blah. No matter what, it's a compliment from a guy who's played the position at an extremely high level, see what he's seeing on film, on the field right now, and saying, hey, you know what, that guy is going to be very good. So regardless of, if it's, cap or whatever, might be true, it still goes to show you that these players who have played at a very, very high level and know what it takes, they're seeing the talent in some of these young guys, and I really hope that that's the case for Cedric Tillman.
Yeah, you talked about his frame, but what's even more impressive is his ability to separate. He is so physical for a big wide receiver. To see him fight through that press man, and Chris Collinsworth even said it on the broadcast. He thought it was OPI. No. Cedric Tillman was just violent with his hands. So when he ran at the DB and just swatted his hands away, that DB was just practically like holding on for dear life at that point.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
almost fell flat on his face. So, it's, 2 receptions for 35 yards. That's over 15 yards per catch.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I think it's just great to see, especially because in the past, I know DPJ is very good at the contested catch, but
Yeah.
I've even seen him have issues, dealing with press man. To have a guy in the locker room outside of, David Njoku that can really kind of just body someone and just go get it. I love that. I absolutely love that. And it was a great opportunity for Cedric Tillman, and just even the DTR connection. That's going to help him down the
Yes.
line, because
Yes.
that's who he's going to get reps with these next
Absolutely.
couple games. So,
Absolutely.
I'm absolutely over the moon about
It,
Cedric Tillman.
and also, last thing before we move on here, I mean, Cedric Tillman, MC kind of touched on this. He does not mind blocking. He is a very good blocking wide receiver, and that's something that's very important. This Christian Scott character said Tillman is a dog. We got to blame him for the pod being late today. But
yeah, I was about to say, you know who else is a dog? People who show up on time.
Yes. They're considered a dog. They're considered a dog. But yeah, speaking of the offensive line, and before we go into one of our best offensive linemen, Joe Thomas, is inducted to the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you've heard of Joe Thomas or not, but Joe Thomas was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we're going to touch on that. But we have to touch on somebody that Joe Thomas complimented on the offensive line, and we'll go to the offensive line as a whole. But DeJuan Jones. I mean, he put everybody in the nation on notice. I mean, he is a large human being, and I know, Mac, you were an offensive lineman, so that's your thing. Those are your boys. You got to talk to me about this 6'8" guy. I mean, DeJuan Jones. What did you see at him at right tackle? He played all game. Kevin Stefanski was questioned about that. Why he played all game? Just want to give them the reps. Give him the reps. Why not? Give him the reps at right tackle and see what you can do. What did you see, Mac? What did you see?
I saw 2 big things. Number one, and Coach Callahan touched on it today. He was impressed with DeJuan Jones' improvement in stamina. I mean, for such a big guy, he wasn't gassed.
No.
Which, is a great thing to see out of an offensive tackle, because sometimes, you look at your offensive tackle and he's a little bit gassed at the end of a game. And maybe phone it in a couple plays, but not with DeJuan Jones. And it's crazy. I rewatched the game a little bit of Friday and most of today, and he was the first one off the ball every single time. And to see him get off the ball quickly and the footwork to mirror his man. I mean, we're talking about Bryce Huff, who led the Jets last year in a pass rush win percentage. We have first rounder Jermaine Johnson. We have first rounder, a guy that the Browns were actually looking into, Will McDonald. So it's not like he was just playing against a bunch of scrubs. And they were helping, chipping with a tight end or a running back here and there. But there were times where they put later in the game where DeJuan Jones, they just put him on an island, and he did well. He stayed in front of his man. And even when he got beat, he had the length and the effort that all he had to do was just ride his man out. And it's
100%.
It's crazy, because I feel like I've been preaching about DeJuan Jones for a while now. And I don't want to be that guy that takes their victory lap. I wrote an article about him.
Take it.
But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him going forward. Because in my opinion, I do think that he outplayed James Hudson. And, if there is ever an opportunity to where, I think right now they need to have a competition for who's going to be that swing tackle. Because both Jed and Conklin, they both haven't played a full season in a while.
Yeah. Do you think that DeJuan Jones should take some snaps at left tackle eventually to potentially,
Well, I mean, they've been working him at left tackle. They have been working out, him at left tackle, but they should just put him at both left and right, and they should just have him ready to be a swing tackle. I don't think that he's necessarily ready to be a starter yet. He still needs to sit back in his stance a little bit more. And we do need to see how he does against. Now, granted, the Jets pass rushers that he were facing are good, but what happens when he plays somebody that's great? And I just don't know whether or not that he's just quite ready to start.
Going up against Will McDonald there too, So, I mean,
Go ahead. Well, I mean, I was just going to say we just need to see a little bit more of him. And everybody's still harping on me to say, hey, we gotta give Jed Wills just one more go. Maybe having an offseason program with Watson, he can learn how to play through the whistle as if that. But I've been told that I need to be patient with a starting left tackle, so that's what I'm doing.
Yes. Quincy Carrier kind of spoke on Twitter and said we got to be patient. I mean, he's an average left tackle, but at the same time, I agree. I mean, he is an average left tackle, but at the same time, his contract is coming up here, and we saw who just got a contract extension left.
Andrew Thomas.
We saw exactly what Andrew Thomas's contract went for, and I don't know if I'm very comfortable with extending Jed, who's an average left tackle, that kind of money. Right. I mean, like if he has a good season, and it's going to be a lot on him, though, because of the mobility of Deshaun Watson and this new kind of offensive scheme they're going to be running. So he has to get comfortable. But he's had tons of time to get comfortable, especially with Deshaun Watson being there for 6 games. He's kind of knowing what it's like to have a mobile quarterback that to block for on their blind side. So it's like you kind of have to throw the excuses out of the window at this point and say, hey, Jed, you have a full season to get it together and in a contract year. So if he's doing anything a little bit mediocre, even if he's having a fantastic year and God forbid he gets injured and can't play for the rest of the season, I will extend him that way. Right. I mean, it shows that there was some kind of, potential moving forward where it's like, hey, you were good. I'm going to extend you anyway. Sort of like Jack Conklin when he got injured and we extended him anyway. It's just like you were comparable and we like what you're seeing. You're not going to give this big contract. Right. But at the same time, we're going to give you an opportunity to showcase your ability. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, my thing is just, it's never been ability with Jed Wills. It's been finishing through the play, and it's been effort. Because when Jed Wills is on and he's there and he's ready to go, he's a very solid pass protector. But he takes plays off, and that becomes infectious. Not to cite the Hard Knocks moment with Jarvis Landry in 2018, but it is contagious.
It's contagious. It is contagious.
And the last person that you want taking plays off is your left tackle, especially when you have think about it. Watson is your car. Your left tackle is your insurance.
Yes. Okay. Wow.
Cool. It covers this, and this.
Yeah. Good point.
But if they're not always there on the other end of the phone when you need something, why are you paying them?
Yes. Yeah. Why call AAA if they're not answering? And it is very vital, especially in this division. I mean, you got Roquan Smith over there in Baltimore. Alex Smith is doing his thing. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt. We already know exactly what Pittsburgh is.
Facing one hell of front sevens across the AFC North. Cincinnati. I mean, there's pass rush duos all over the place.
All over the place. And you need that kind of protection. So I think it's vital. I think it's vital that they kind of move forward with that. So, So speaking of vital and offensive linemen, Joe Thomas was inducted into the Hall of Fame. One of the greats of the Cleveland Browns with his time here, just consistent, played for over 20 quarterbacks, protecting for them. I mean, it's a shame that we even have to say that, but Joe Thomas, I mean, he is so consistent throughout this entire time. I think it's 5 All-Pros that he's been selected to. He's just, first and foremost, he looks great after losing all of that weight. You know what I mean? As a lineman, I mean, he's biking, now and doing things like that and doing little mini tours on a bicycle. So that's great for him. Just enjoying life post football. But kind of talk to me about that. What his importance to Cleveland means.
I mean, they were talking about it all weekend, the potential trade to Denver. And Joe Thomas had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Peyton Manning, on the phone.
Yep.
And Peyton Manning was saying, "Hey, come to Denver. We're so close to winning a Super Bowl. You can taste success, and you can get a chance at a championship. And we're like, come to Denver." And he said no. He's like, "My kids are here. Like my whole family, my whole life is here."
Awesome.
Like, and even though there are stories about, I mean, obviously we have the embarrassment of Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
There was the story, I believe it was Austin Davis that came into the huddle, and Joe Thomas had no idea who he was.
Yep.
So, even through all of that, he had a chance to go chase a championship. He said no, because it wouldn't mean as much. So it's just, I have so much utmost respect for him. I mean, even when they were crappy, he was still showing up to work, and
100%.
He was still the best player on that field every single time. And like, it's, and I totally get it, because sometimes after having such a long career in football, you just want to take a step back and you want to go spend time with family and everything. But he truly is one of the greatest left tackles that this game has ever seen. And to me, it's a bit of a tragedy that he's not a coach. And like, I get it. There's so much time, and it's part of the reason why he turned down, the broadcasting gig with the Cleveland Browns. Because he like the family time and the free time, which I have, mad respect for. Like, hey, take care of your family first. But it's the reason why he turned that down. And like, it's just, to me, I really just, but then again, I'm also that same Cleveland fan that wants, Phil Dawson to come to camp and teach Cade York how to freaking kick. But it's, and to Joe's credit, he's still there at training camp, and he'll make appearances. I mean, he's worked with Jed Wills. He's talked to DeJuan Jones, and he's still hung around and been a big part of this franchise since he retired. So, nothing more than the utmost respect for the Hoff, one of the greatest left tackles of all time, Joe Thomas.
Absolutely. Shout out to Joe Thomas, and we love you here in Cleveland. I know the Wisconsin Badgers fans love you as well. And it's just so great to have just recent memories of, all those horrible games, and 1
and the horrible jerseys. I don't know who said the comment, but I was trying not to laugh while I was talking.
Yes. I mean, these jerseys. I think that was Drew. But I think these jerseys were very bad. They were very bad jerseys. But again,
I'm pretty sure that they put that jersey in the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
I could be wrong.
Yes,
they did.
I would imagine that they have. If there's any jersey,
that is just putrid. That is just, oh my god.
And the Hall of Fame bus looked well as well. Like it by the way, it looked good. Sometimes you get a bad one, sometimes you get a good one. Something, you know what I mean. But for the most part, they're pretty good. But that one was pretty good. That's a pretty good one. So as we're going to wrap up the show here, we're just going to talk a little bit about the takeaways from the game in general, and then we're going to highlight the Cleveland Browns game this Friday versus the Commanders. See who we're talking to. See who exactly you're starting for the Commanders, whether it be Sam Howell getting some action or Jacoby Brissett. But we do want to let you know that we do have new merch. We said it last episode, but it's season 2. We got a new logo. You see the new logo. We got some new merch on the Down with the Brown website. You can check out the website on our Twitter at Down with the Browns, at DWTB_. That is at Down with the Browns, or wherever you can find your social media at Down with the Browns. We're there. We have a link in the shop. Get your new merch. Get your hoodies. It's fall's going to be right around the corner. I don't want to skip over summer. I love summer, but I just got to throw that out there. It's football season, so that means it's going to be getting a little bit cold.
And quick tip: if you don't want to pay for merch, subscribe to our YouTube.
Yes,
because we do giveaways. And when we do giveaways, the first people we consider are people who subscribe.
Yes, so 100%. It holds a lot of weight.
Friendly tip there.
It holds a lot of weight. So we're going to move forward and talk about just a little bit, wrap this up with the Cleveland Browns versus the Jets.
We're going to talk defense. defense.
We got to talk defense. We got to talk defense. Oh my goodness. Who stood out to you on the defensive side of the ball in this game?
I mean, Jordan Kanasic, easy. We're talking about a guy that's gotten a lot of time, pretty much came out of nowhere last year. He was a real late signing.
Yeah.
We didn't really know much about him. He was kind of thrusted into it, but he worked his tail off on special teams. He didn't really get much playing time, but then he came into camp as the second string middle linebacker, and AWOC is still limited.
Yes.
He's still working back from that quad injury. So Kunasik is getting a lot of time, and I would say that he thrived out there. I mean, it looked like he was commanding the defense. And something that really stood out to me in the third quarter, there was a 3rd and 1. The Jets just needed 1 yard, and it's the typical thing that we saw all last season. QB turns around, hands the ball off, and the running back's going to get 2 yards just because that's how soft the defense is. Not this time, not with Jim Schwartz. Stuffed him right in the backfield. And, it was really great to see. Again, granted, in the Hall of Fame game, it's mostly backups, mostly 3rd, 4th stringers. But, to see that mentality with the younger group just means that this is what we're going to be seeing from this defense in the future. And, one guy that I thought that kind of flew under the radar a little bit, Isaiah Mcguire.
Yes.
I'm going to say that, and people need to circle that, star that. People need to look out for this dude, number 57. We drafted him from Missouri. He was kind of a late round. They said, oh, well, he's great at rushing the passer, but he doesn't have flatline pursuit speed.
Yeah.
He's not the greatest athlete, but when you get him on the field, he can set the edge. Now, there are some things that he still needs to learn, and he's yet to play in the wide 9. There was a time where he was in the wide 9 position, and he didn't really set the edge correctly. So the running back was able to bounce outside of him. But in his pass rush, he was really getting after the quarterback. I thought him and Maurice Hurst had a relatively good game. There was a lot of penetration out of number 90, I believe is him. But yeah, so now Isaiah Thomas and Alex Wright are both hurt.
Yeah.
So, for D and 4, there's a real opportunity. Now, I don't think it's quite time to panic. I don't think it's quite time to give Melvin Ingram way too much money to be a 4th string defensive end.
Yes. Yes.
But now is the time to see what you have in Isaiah Mcguire and see what you have in this defensive tackle room. Another thing to notate, somebody who did not have such a good game, Jordan Elliott.
Yes. Jordan Elliott did not have a good game.
I don't want to say that I 1,000% saw this coming, but you knew that something was happening with Harrison Bryant and Jordan Elliott. Now everybody's saying, well, what are you talking about? They got their deals restructured and they're making more money, but it's less guaranteed and it's less against the cap.
Yeah.
So they can be cut this year with less of a penalty than they originally had. And when you're the starting defensive tackle and you're playing in the Hall of Fame game with the backups and the 3rd stringers, it's just, they're trying. They're giving, now not saying that Jordan Elliott hasn't earned it. He's been a guy that's worked his tail off, has, been asked to gain weight and lose weight. But, at the end of the day, when you're not a starter, you're not a starter. And Jordan Elliott did not show really any flashes. And as a starting defensive tackle, when you're not making noise against 2nd and 3rd string offensive linemen, that's not good.
No,
that's not good at all.
And that's the point that we've been touching on, really. I mean, when you're doing really, really well against 3rd and 4th string players, it's they're 3rd and 4th string players. So, it's kind of a split 50-50 crowd on how well you're doing. But when you don't perform very well against 3rd and 4th string players, and you're potentially supposed to be a rotational piece on that defensive line at one point before we made all the acquisitions, that's saying a lot. That is saying a lot. So it's like, we're not overreacting when we're talking about Jordan Elliott here. It's not really an overreaction because it's you're fighting for an opportunity to not only, be on the team, albeit, if being in the rotation in and of itself. So it's like, I think you got to show a little bit more. You have to show a little bit more. So it just wasn't a very good outing. Bubba Bolden, shout out to Bubba Bolden for the interception. We were almost going to experience another comeback loss to the Jets twice in 1 year, unless in one calendar year. So shout out to that interception. Phenomenal job. And you love to do that. You love to put your team on notice, and they took the penalty. Everybody rushed onto the field. You take penalties like that. I mean, it's a Hall of Fame game. You hype up these guys. A lot of the starters see these guys working in and day out for their opportunity to make a play like that. So to be able to catch the ball, hold on to the ball, and just, make a play, phenomenal job. For Bubba Bolden. I do want to shift gears slightly to the special teams because we had somebody say, Cade York, are you worried, or should we be worried about Cade York's performance? What is with Cade York right now? I mean, do you make a lot of that missed field goal? I mean, there was no wind. It is a Hall of Fame game. Is it the yips? Is it sick and tired of saying it's the yips? What's your kind of synopsis on Cade York?
I mean, so before I get into my opinion, let's just state the facts. Okay. It was perfect atmosphere, no wind. The hold was great. It's a 49-yarder.
Yeah.
No pressure whatsoever in a stadium that was not even loud. And you're missing it. You're pushing the ball way right. It's not like he slipped. No. It's not like he's injured. It's not like this is his first contact. I mean, this is his second season, for Christ's sake. I get it. They drafted him in the 4th round, right? Yeah. They spent this asset on this player. They need to see what they have in him. Yeah. But when you're getting the yips in the Hall of Fame, this isn't even a preseason game.
This is a preseason to the preseason.
Yeah, preseason to the preseason. And you're getting the yips there.
Yeah.
What's going to happen in the regular season? Can we count? Because we know that it's up here. We know for a fact that it's up here because in his first NFL game, he drilled a 53-yarder to win the game.
Yes.
So
That's why I know he can do it. I know he can do it.
Yeah.
We've seen him do it. He won us a game. You know what I mean? Like he won us a week 1 game, and I don't know how long. I forgot the date now because whatever. But like he won us a week 1 game. Versus Baker Mayfield and all this other stuff from the Panthers. So I know that he can do it. But that's why I'm saying I wish he would have made it, not because of the score, but I wish he would have made it just for the fact of his mental, right? Like the mental aspect of the game, just to see one go through in a regular kind of game scenario, not in practice, to start off the year. You never want to start off the year with a wide right with no wind. Sometimes you just got to forget about it. So I hope moving forward, this Friday, hopefully they give them an opportunity to kick another field goal. He didn't get another opportunity to kick a field goal, but he was 3 for 3 on extra points, and extra points are extra points, but it is easier. But at the same time, we do want to see Cade York turn it around pretty quickly because I don't know how long of a leash he will get during the season if he's missing kicks left and right. And you're so right. You cannot have the yips in a preseason to a preseason game. So I don't want to dwell too much on it, but at the same time, I mean, you gotta see one of these go through. So I do think that he's going to bounce back. I do think Kevin Stefanski is going to give him the opportunity to go for 3 instead of go for on a 4th down, to test some things out. I think they're going to give him an opportunity to just, get out of his head and just kind of knock one through, see one go through the uprights. It's been a long off season, so you just want to see one of those go through.
Well, I mean, so I got a question for you, Manny, and I got a question for the audience.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time where a team brought in a kicker last second and it worked out?
No.
Because here's the thing too, and we talked about, and I tweeted about it. Credit to Noah, because we brought him on the show and I asked about it. I felt bad asking about it, but I needed to know, hey, are they going to bring in competition for Cade York? He said, absolutely not. They're going to give it to him. They want to show that they have confidence in him. Well, you showed the kid that you got confidence in him, and here's where we're at. We're questioning whether the fact
we're questioning a lot of things.
So, I think lesson learned here. Next time, if you're unsure about your kicker, bring in another guy, because at least at the end of the day, you can say, hey, we got the better of the two.
Yeah,
And now
100%.
it's just like we
100%.
put blind faith into a guy that we're not even sure. Now, again, granted, we got 4 more preseason games to figure this out.
Yeah.
We can put Cade York in a darkness retreat like Aaron Rodgers did. Okay, we can get him we can get him a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Like we can sit him down and have him do yoga. But like we can try to like fix him here, and hell, he can fix himself. But it's extremely worrying. There's no other guy. There's
nothing.
Cade York, or like we're looking at the free agent market, which for kickers, it's either they're old and injured, or they're guys that can't make enough field goals to stay on a team.
Exactly. I think and honestly, I think that I know, because we were watching it and we were fans, and it was a little bit of like, come on, Cade York, you've got to be kidding me. There was no wind. And so we were not a victim of the moment, because it was still understandably frustrating. But we have 3 more preseason games left. I'm going to give him an opportunity. I think he deserves a couple more chances than what we normally would give a kicker. Like Chase McLaughlin. I mean, but there was a point where Chase McLaughlin was like 7 for 7. He was knocking him down when he was here, over to Indianapolis, and then of course he gets like kicker, special teams player of the week twice or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, that is indoors. But anyway, so I'm going to give Cade York a little bit of some leeway here, because he did win us an entire big game where everybody was hoping that we would lose. There was a national media attention on it, even though it was a 1 p.m. game. So I'm going to give him a little more leash here. But again, you got to get these yips out of you during the preseason. So, but yeah, so moving forward for our last topic here, we are going to highlight really quickly the Commanders at Browns. So we have about 3-4 minutes left. Again, what are we going to see? It's going to be in Cleveland at Cleveland Brown Stadium. I mean, hopefully we're going to see a little bit of DTR again. We might see a lot more of Kellen Mond. I think they're going to give them an opportunity. I don't think we'll see Josh Dobbs until we play the Eagles the week after on the 17th. So, but I think it's going to be the Kellen Mond DTR show. I think we're going to see a little bit of some Siaki Ika personally. And like I said before, I think Cade York's going to get an opportunity. We're going to see him probably, come out, try out there maybe 2 or 3 times. I think Kevin Stefanski wants him, and Bubba Patron wants him to kind of just focus. So I think that's kind of what I'm seeing on the Brown side of the ball. And I'm not sure who they're going to be starting at quarterback under center, but whoever it is for the Commanders, it's going to be somebody who probably shouldn't be starting in a preseason game, because there might be their starting quarterback in the regular season. Is it Jacoby Brissett? Is it Sam Howell? What's kind of your overview of this game, with some things you're looking for before we wrap up?
Well, one player that I want to see a little bit more, I want to see more of Hassan Hall. Okay. Now, big news out of camp today, Jerome Ford injured his hamstring, and went into, went inside early with an injury. So, the running back 3 is now even a more important position. And it's between 3 guys right now. We have Demetric Felton, which, he showed promise as a runner, but he's a receiving back that's not a good receiver.
Yes.
And then you have John Kelly, who can run the football really well, nothing special, great vision. He knows what he's doing, but he's, again, not also the greatest catching the football. And he's not a specialist like Demetric Felton is.
Yep.
So a little bit less of value there. And then you have this undrafted free agent, Hassan Hall. Played his last years at Georgia Tech. He was at Louisville, I believe, before he transferred. And he was a special teamer there. And he's one hell of a running back. I really liked his vision and his tough running. So I want to see a little bit more out of Hassan Hall, because, again, we need to figure out what is going on, with this running back position. So I would really like to know, okay. All right, MC. Mad respect, and again, thank you for supporting the show. But if we're talking about now, granted, okay, I'll make you a deal, MC. Okay, if Anthony Schwartz comes out next game and he makes an astounding play, he scores a touchdown.
Yeah,
I will take a bite out of the bar of soap that's sitting in my shower.
you got to video that. You got to video that. You've heard it here first.
Go ahead.
You've heard it here first.
Go ahead. I will.
If Anthony Schwartz scores a touchdown,
I won't eat a whole bar of soap, but I will.
Take a bite out of a bar. Of soap.
I will. I will take a bite out of the Irish Spring that's sitting in my shower. Okay, because that is. I mean, I made a joke about it in my opening segment, but that was just like. I mean,
that was a bad one.
We were talking about Jordan Elliott and a player that's gotten, time and time again of chances, but like, I mean, Anthony Schwartz.
Schwartz has gotten chance after. I've never seen someone get that many chances in my life.
Well, they tried him out as a traditional wide receiver.
Yeah,
couldn't catch.
Yeah.
They tried. They were like, hey, you've never returned kicks before, but we're gonna try this. Muff those. So. Couldn't do that. And then they tried him out, gunner special teams. He ended up getting hurt. And then they tried him as this runner and, cool. He's had 2 successful end arounds and 2 fumbles.
Yeah.
So
it's not looking too well for Anthony Schwartz. He has one game to come back to. He has one game, but so yeah, we're gonna wrap this show up. Great show, guys. We are going to see you next week to preview and recap the Commanders at Browns. And as always, go Browns.
Go Browns, baby.